The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. It's Brian and Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
Hello.
Hello. Miss Berlin she was on vacation and she texted us and said that she wasn't feeling well. So I'm hoping it's seasonal flu or something like that. She's going to be getting back up on her feet here in the next week or so. So we'll wish her the best and hope that we can get back online soon. Hopefully I'll see her this week. We have another sponsored podcast with Blue Mara that hopefully y'all were able to get a chance to listen to. They're one of our sponsors. They're doing a limited 3 podcast event with us here. So we're interviewing people and asking somewhat real questions other than, how awesome is your product? So we're trying to ask, real legitimate questions that a user might want to know about for their organization. So hope you have a chance to take a listen to that. Mr. Betcher, how are you doing this week, sir?
Good. Usually on the weekends, I do some physical labor outside, and I was feeling kind of sore and, almost sickly like, just, how you get the funk, but then I slept for like an hour and now I feel so much better.
Got yourself a little nap. Yeah. Nothing wrong with nap time. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So what does physical labor look like for you? Is that like lawn work? You mowing the lawn? Raking leaves?
Well, I was putting up a fence.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh God, man. Okay. We recently got one put up over in our yard and we just paid Lowe's to do that. I don't know the first thing about setting up a fence. Good Lord.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Player 3. So just as an aside, player 3 this week will be played by Tony Robinson. For those of you who do not know him, this is an audio podcast. So your little hand wave is will have to be theater of the mind. I apologize. We're working on the potential.
Oh man, I was wondering because I was just all like, why isn't anybody introducing me yet? I'm just sitting here. I thought like we were sitting in here on Twitch, and I was just sitting there. I was just like, just kind of looking around.
No.
Okay,
get yourself all cleaned up for
audio.
nothing.
Yeah, I showered for this, but I still don't have video. So yeah, So the dulcet tones you're hearing is Tony Robinson. You might know him as DA_667 on Twitter.
No, my face. I need that for radio.
I have a face for radio too. Yeah. So wait. So Mr. Betcher, you were making a fence. Tony, you actually had somebody come and build your fence. I did the same thing. I had somebody build my fence for me, and I regret that because it's not a very good fence. So, but yeah. So what's your fence look like, Mr. Betcher?
What does it look like?
Yeah, is it like chain link or wood slat or what?
It was a horse panel.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The little 2-inch by 4-inch.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good stuff.
Very nice. And Tony, what is, did you get chain link fence or something for your house?
We ended up getting wood. And the main reason that we got a wooden fence is one for privacy. I mean, we got pretty cool neighbors, the neighborhood that we live in. I've been in here since 2017. Our neighbors are cool, but I'll just come out and say it. My dogs are assholes. I've got 2 basset hounds and they're incredibly loud. And if they see anything, hear anything, human, dog, squirrel, rabbit, doesn't matter. Everybody in the neighborhood's going to hear them for like the next 15 or 20 minutes. So, just to kind of be nice to our neighbors and, give them more space to roam. Like we just set up privacy fencing and we also kind of like redid where the boundaries were. So they had that pounded out in like 2 days. They would have had it in 1 day, but like they had issues with marking the underground lines and whatnot. They weren't all marked properly, so they had to come back the day after and do the other half of it. But nice. I mean, so far it hasn't fallen down, and the solar lights on it light up at night. So I'm calling it a win for now until anything terrible happens. So fingers crossed that nothing happens with it.
That's cool. Yeah. I have, our neighbors are pretty awesome too. You can tell they're awesome because they turn their telescopes out their bedroom windows away from our house, and actually look at the sun and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know if that's by design or they just, don't think that we're attractive enough to spy on. So, there's always that, but, yeah, everyone pretty much keeps to themselves. It's one of those things where you knock on their door and they're like, hey, I was talking to, Jim next door. And I was like, who's Jim? That kind of thing. So
yeah,
I don't have a freaking idea who Jim is, but yeah, thanks for trying to sell me something, bro. And then, shut the door. But, yeah, I really should get better at the only time I meet my neighbors is when we're shoveling snow in the wintertime. And it just seems wrong. I should probably get better at doing.
I mean, like we walk our dogs, and that's like about all the time that we see ours too. Is we just say, "Hey, we're sorry if the dogs are bothering you or whatever," and
right.
So I understand like the whole wanting to keep to yourselves things. I mean, I'm a computer guy. I'm an introvert by nature. I don't go out of my way. So I feel you.
Yep. Yeah, I am apparently known in the neighborhood as the guy who walks a lot. So, yeah, I tend to, go out in the morning and at lunch and in the evening, and I'm apparently the guy who walks a lot. So that's what my daughter has told me. The kids in the neighborhood know me as, so other than my daughter's dad. So I don't know if that's a good thing as well. I must show up on a lot of next door cams or something. So, yeah. Oh no, my car got broken too. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gods. Yeah.
Well, it's like I don't know. I read a book and it had this in it where former FBI, CIA was, how can I put this? He was trying to get in goods with who they thought was a Russian spy. And so he would just walk by him every day or as many times as he could. He would just happen to meet him in the store, and just, shop in the same times and walk by when he was sitting on a park bench and things like that and get that familiarity with him. Right.
I'm imagining the guy walks by and he's like, yes, you should try the watermelon today. And, he buys a watermelon, takes it home, cracks it open, secret message inside, that kind of thing. Yeah. That'd be pretty sweet.
This is going to sound really stupid, but I just saw a message or like a story like that just show up on my Twitter feed a little while back. I'm not kidding. I need to go and find the damn source now because it's going to drive me nuts. But like, there was somebody posted a message like there was a gentleman who was in the Navy who was working on a nuclear sub. Russians were asking for secrets. And one of the things they did was like put an SD card in a half-eaten peanut butter sandwich and throw it away. They used it as a dead drop to like try and smuggle secrets out. But actually it was an undercover agent who recovered the SD card, paid him the money and kept stringing him along to figure out what else he was going to do. You found it. Who was the one that sent that out? Because I saw that, I was like, no fucking way. This is some Cold War stuff going on. This is crazy. BBC, U.S. couple accused of selling nuclear submarine secrets. Yeah.
Jonathan Toeebe and his wife Diana were arrested in West Virginia on Saturday. Now this was in 6 hours ago. So this is like right up to the minute kind of stuff here. So
yeah, like I just drove home like a couple hours ago, and then like I turned on the computer and I'm logging into Twitter. I was like, did they send me something else while I was gone all weekend? And I was like, I got to make sure that I'm keeping up for the podcast. And then this pops up. I was like, no way, this is some Cold War stuff. This is crazy. It's a real story.
They allegedly tried to sell a nuclear submarine design data hidden in a peanut butter sandwich to someone they thought represented another country. In fact, was an FBI agent. Oh my God. They've now been charged under the Atomic Energy Act. Oh my God. That is crazy. Peanut butter sandwich. Yum, yum.
There's your dead drop.
$100,000 in cryptocurrency. Oh, yet another use for Bitcoin these days. Being able to buy nuclear secrets. Good Lord. That is hilarious. All right. Well, that's in our show notes. That was a piece of news. So I guess, not good.
Okay. I got another story. So, you know how when you type in something in Google and it gives you the most searched items after that. So you say like, does Bitcoin, and it fills it in like, does Bitcoin work? Does Bitcoin mining damage your computer? Does Bitcoin pay dividends? And so for some reason, my son and I were talking about, okay, so like Shatner is going to be the oldest guy in space. And he's like, what if he dies in space? He'll be the first, and I said, well, he'd probably be the first person to die in space. And he goes, no, people die in space. And I'm like, I don't think anyone's ever died in space. So he gets his phone, he types how many, and it auto-corrected people died in space.
Shut the fuck. What?
I saw it. I swear. His damn phone was listening. And he has a Google phone. It's a Pixel, right? It's not like a Samsung or whatever. So yeah, that's crazy. And that happens quite often where I'll get these things that I was either had a conversation a few hours ago or a few days ago about, and I get this ad for it, the exact thing comes out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, they're passively listening on those things. Yeah.
Oh, God.
I mean, I believe I've seen a news article about, even if you have the hardware microphone switch turned off, some of these still passively listen because, they might, they're hearing utterances because they want to find out, if the person's actually using it so they can reply, oh, hey, I can't hear you, even though I can hear you. But your microphone is turned off. So I'm not supposed to be able to take requests from you, but I hear you talking and hear you trying to invoke mine, summon me from the seven hells. So, yeah, here's the thing. So, yeah. Wow. 18 people have lost their lives either while in space or in preparation for space missions. I do know that they had several animals that the Russians had sent up at one time that I do not believe survived space travel.
But like, how many people have actually died in space? Like, okay, there have been people dying trying to get to space, with the shuttle destroyed and all that.
Right.
And maybe people coming down into the atmosphere, it crashes. That was the last shuttle.
Yeah.
But once they're in space, who has died there? I don't know.
So as of March 2021, according to Wikipedia, in-flight accidents have killed 15 astronauts, 4 cosmonauts, and 5 incidences. 3 of them have flown above the Kármán line or Kármán line, the edge of space, and 1 was intended to do so. In each case, the entire crew was killed. Statistical fatality rates 3.2%. So it's actually safer to be an astronaut than it is to fly commercial aircraft. Sounds like. So there you go.
Wait a minute. 3.2%. That's a lot.
Well, considering how many people have actually gone up into space is probably less than 10,000 or so. So, and it's been 40, 50 years. So, I mean, it's not bad. They've had, probably less accidents, on reentry or on launch than commercial air travel. But, in the aggregate, it is what it is. So yeah. I look forward to everyone's Twitter telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. So, yeah. Anyway,
yeah, they were just watching the Twilight Zone with William Shatner, who went crazy on the airplane. Speaking of airplanes,
something on the wing. Something. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, I may or may not have had an adult beverage. That's a great Shatner. That's not a worse Shatner. There's something on the wing. Something on the wing. Anyway,
Spot. Bones.
Spot. Yeah. Okay. Well, I may have had an adult beverage on an empty stomach earlier, so I'm still trying to sober up from that. So I apologize. So Tony's here to kind of a twofold thing. He's going to be doing some news with us this week, as if we already haven't been doing some news. But he's also here for his book. He has the second edition of his book, which is available, called Building Virtual Machine Labs. Hands-on guide, second edition, available by LeanPub. So if you are interested in checking that out, you can go to leanpub.com/avatar2, being the sequel's better than the original in this case, because it's been updated.
By the way, for anybody else who's interested in having physical copies, it's also available. I self-published through Amazon. If you just search for Building Virtual Machine Labs, you will find the second editions there. The search function works really wonderfully, so no need to dump URLs everywhere.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. So apparently the previous edition, according to LeanPub, had almost 7,000 readers. So, almost 7,000 people have benefited from this book. So well done, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I was quite surprised by that on my own. There was that. And then also I had self-published the first edition through Amazon. It used to be CreateSpace. Now it's Amazon's KDP service, Kindle Direct Publishing.
Oh, yeah.
And at least according to what they told me, there's somewhere around 4,000 people purchased the physical copy. And
nice.
Over the last couple of years, I've had people say like, oh, this is curriculum that's part of my college course. Or I've actually had, like, when I was in the middle of writing the book and doing the incremental updates before I had self-published or did any of this, like, I had random visitors all over the internet. I even had like a naval officer like got a hold of my email address. Was like, when is this going to be done? Can I have the rest of it? I was like, dude, it's free. You could have it. Sure. I was just like, I don't even know how you got my email address, but all right, sure.
Oh, bad OPSEC.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. So wait, if they're using it in college curriculum, does that mean as a textbook they should be, paying you like $300 to $400 per textbook or something every time they,
So they no, that's like one of the things that I didn't want to happen. Like everybody told me, like when I did the first book, I sold it for $35 a pop, and people are like, you're not charging enough. I was like, I don't care. I was a college student. I don't want to charge them like $80 for a textbook if I don't have to. So I was like, well, I get a little bit of royalties off of it. And
I think we're.
There we go. Okay.
So, wow, we just got canceled. What did you say, actually?
We didn't get canceled. I was trying to turn off the chat, and I don't know the hotkey for it, so I was trying to go in and tap it. But so we're just batting 1,000 tonight. So we'll talk with Tony a little bit later about the book and some of the content inside in case you haven't read the book, and maybe there's some definite updates to this because we had him on our CSEC East meetup. A little while ago, actually last Wednesday, the 6th. So that was a great discussion. I think it's pretty awesome to hear the thought process there and what everybody was thinking about that. So we have a couple news stories. One that just came out, I believe, today, October 10th. Pierluigi Paganini from Security Affairs. If you have a Medtronic insulin pump, I would really highly suggest that you check the recall notice that you're about to get in your email or your mailing list, because there's some really bad shit going on with Medtronic insulin pumps. So if you're using the Mini Med remote controller, uses a wireless radio frequency to communicate with your insulin pump. I think we've seen this before with a lot of RF or radio type devices like garage doors. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the Tesla, the first generation Teslas had things like replay attacks, which would allow you to use an SDR to capture certain signals and then be able to replay those attacks. And that is exactly what's happened here.
Even if the communication is encrypted, these replay attacks can happen, right? I guess the answer to this is to have some sort of a key exchange, right? And have a new key each time between the client and the server. And that would eliminate the replay attack, wouldn't it, Tony? Where am I going wrong here?
Well, encrypting the signaling and
you're
definitely asking the wrong person. I'm not much of a hardware hacker, and thankfully I don't really have easy access to insulin pumps just yet. But we've all heard
it's
the research
not necessarily hardware. It's mainly So if there's an encrypted connection, I can replay that connection if I record it, right? If I'm able to intercept it, record it, and play it back, seemingly if the signal said, hey, I want this much insulin, you could just replay it right away and get that much more insulin. However, if there were a unique key exchange each time, that would not happen, right? Because you'd have a unique key exchange.
Or you had, or if there was some sort of a nonce that changed like what the encrypted values would look like. I would think so.
Yeah, so that would remove the replay attack. And what else is there? If it is encrypted communication, the only thing that you could do is replay what you recorded.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's no authentication here. It's just the same signal over and over again. And unlike, I guess this is a little different than what garage doors do. So, back in the day before they started upgrading those, if you hit the button, you get one of at least the one that I remember, it was like one of 16 signals. So if you'd hit it enough times, eventually you would capture all 16 of the signals because it was a random, like one of the 16. And the idea was that was good enough security until somebody realized, well, I can just capture all 16 of those. And then I can pretty much open up any garage door opener with that brand or that type of opener that's available, and make that possible. This one specifically, not only like you mentioned, Mr. Betcher, that you could replay the attack and give people more insulin and cause hyperglycemia. Depending on the signal you've collected, you could even stop insulin delivery, which could result in ketoacidosis or death even. So depending on how bad your insulin dependency is, or non-dependency in this case, you could be really up a creek here, or make it so that it looks like they didn't mention this either, but it could, if somebody's pushing the button expecting something, maybe they don't get it at all. So this affects, they say, up to 60% of the insulin pumps on the market, because the MiniMed remote controller is used by a number of different insulin devices. So which is really not good. This was first communicated. The company first communicated the recall to users in 2018, recommending to disable the remote bolus feature when not in use to prevent cyber attacks from using an optional remote control. So the remote control is optional, but it sounds like if you didn't disable the remote control feature, you could replay the attack even without a remote control in the area. So that's even doubly worse, I guess, if you had a hell of a
you
time
said that you're familiar with tabletop gaming before, right? Have you ever played Shadowrun?
I have played Shadowrun once or twice. Yes.
Like hearing all the stuff about like turn off the interface if you're not using it, like it really gives me like, if you have cyberware on your system and you're facing a decker, like, did you leave the wireless turned on? And then like the GM totally like saying you start pirouetting in circles because you left the wireless on your legs turned on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just getting those kind of vibes out of it,
Yep. And that's more realistic than you think. I have a friend of mine. He had an infection, so it caused his right leg to be amputated above the knee, and he has a fully automated actuator leg that is Bluetooth paired to his phone, and it charges via wireless induction, and he has full communication power via his phone to figure out how things are doing with it, and diagnostics. And I took a look at it when he was showing it to me and how cool it was, and I was like, man, I bet there's no security on this thing at all. What kind of problems he could have if somebody was to brick his $20,000 leg that he got from the VA or what have you. So
that's insane. Like I didn't even know that was the state of thing. It was with prosthetics. I had a completely different worldview with that. I had no idea that like there was power actuation on different prosthetics that you could get. That's news to me altogether.
Yeah, he had to learn how to walk with it, because it had to learn how to understand his gait, his speed of walking, his pace, how his instep. If he had 30 inch gate or what have you, it would automatically calibrate itself to that. The only thing I could think of was, wow, if the immediate thought is, well, who would hack a leg? And then I was like, I know people who would do that for the lulz, and he better not go to Vegas. Yeah, welcome to DEF CON. Don't ever go to DEF CON don't ever go to Vegas in July with your leg, good sir, because somebody will hack the shit out of that. So, anyway, they said this remote controls represents 60%, or the impacted devices represent 60% of the insulin pumps on the market. Both of the device families are no longer produced by the vendor. So apparently maybe these are only the vulnerabilities that we found in there's enough of them that they realize, well, maybe we need to upgrade. So maybe version, MMT 600 is better, or 603 is better. So
I want to say in the article somewhere, it said that there has not been a single case of one of these being hacked yet that they know of.
That's good. Yeah.
That's the whole allegedly that we know of.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell would somebody run around just like trying to kill random people with insulin pumps or you don't know if people have these insulin pumps, do you? Maybe if you're a family member and you want to off your grandfather for the inheritance. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know how big they are. I do know. I've seen people with like those portable oxygen things and look like they're carrying a purse or something like that. I don't know how big the little glucose or insulin collectors or dosers are. So, I don't have one myself, and I don't know anybody who has one. So, if I had a family member who had one of these, I would have already been on the phone with them, telling them to turn this shit off immediately. So, if you, and what I would hope is that, your doctor or you, and the weird thing is they said they issued the recall in 2018, but this article is written today, October 10th, 2021. So I'm not sure what made this a thing all of a sudden from 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So, So you can also call, according to the article, you can also contact Medtronic if you have to return the controller. There's an 800 number on the article, so you can check that out as well. So let me see. Anybody who has been on the internet, of course, heard about the Twitch breach. There's a lot going on with that still. We talked a little bit about that this week on at our CSEC East meetup. 135 gigs of internal data was stolen from Twitch. The leaker went to 4chan and basically said, Twitch is, the evil, and that's why I did it. Ha ha ha. There was a bit of irony there for a lot of folks on Twitter who'd mentioned, well, he went to 4chan, which is pretty much a cesspool itself, and so there's some detractors there were like, oh, not every 4chan channel is about, /poll or whatever, but
it's still a cesspool. It's a containment zone. That's all it is. Trust me.
Right. Well,
allegedly.
What's the old saying? What's that white stuff on top of bird shit? Still bird shit. So, it's, that kind of thing. So the leaker said it's part 1, didn't know what else was coming, but so far they leaked source code, internal tools, spreadsheets talking about how much streamers make. For a while, there was even a website that had taken all the money and collated it together. Congratulations, Critical Role, $9.6 million in the last 2.5 years. That's pretty damn good. There's I think the top 50 Twitch streamers are making better than $1 million. So that's pretty damn good. So there's definitely money in it if that's your bag. So, so hopefully we'll get to hear what part 2 is all about. But they opened up everything. So the one thing that I did notice was some of the news stories we're talking about regenerating your stream keys, which are very important, and also enabling 2FA. I don't know if 2FA would have saved them in this case, but it really depends on how they're implementing 2FA. But again, that's another reason why you would want to enable that as an option if they give you that option. And another reason why you would want to, change all your passwords or what have you, if especially for a breach like this, where, making $9.6 million, every 2 years, that's what, $4.5 million a year, roughly what, for half, about $350,000 to $400,000 a month. So that's not chump change. So, make sure you're doing what's necessary to protect your livelihood there. So, yeah.
So for another perspective to kind of look at that, like some people, when they look at how much money these streamers are making, it's like, why do people make this much money? But you got to consider the fact that, well, on a basic level, it's people that are chatting or just playing video games, but also, while you're playing video games, you have to be entertaining and you also have to engage your crowd. There has to be a reason why they keep coming back and keep donating to you.
Yep.
That's why they make the money, and a lot of these streamers, they're working 12, 14-hour days in front of a monitor while still being engaging and friendly with their chat, or, being able to banter really well with them, and, just talk BS about whatever patch notes for whatever game came out and still just make it entertaining. So, there's that aspect of it to where, like, people are surprised they make that much money. But then the other aspect is they had to work for it. And it's kind of like a validation for all of those kids when they tell you, when I grow up, I want to be a Twitch streamer, that's one, like, a lot of older adults will like give the younger kids a bunch of BS about that, saying that's not a career. And you look at this data, tell me this ain't a career, man. Tell me this ain't something that you got to work for.
And, how much do the top 50 Hollywood actors and actresses make, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably somewhere around that or more, right? And they're entertainers too. They're good at what they do, just like these guys.
Yep.
If you got dreams, try and go for them. It's just it's a lot of work. It's not just being good at video games. It's being having good comedy or having good chemistry with your chat channel too, and all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And Critical Role, they have like 9 people. So if they're making, I'm just using round numbers, but if they even make $350,000 a month, that's divided by 9 people. So they're making, $75,000, $80,000, on average a month, so, that'd be about right. Per person. So, I mean, it does take a lot of time and effort if, it's not just, hey, I'm just going to, load something up. I mean, community building is difficult. I should know. I've been, generating a little bit of community. Mr. Betcher and I and Ms. Berlin have been creating community for years, but not on the same scale they are. I mean, gods. So, which all the more reason to protect your livelihood by being as secure as possible. It extends not just to your home addresses, and stuff that could have been connected, even though they say they haven't, they specifically said no, or no, somebody said, I really hope no major personal information gets out of the rumored leak. Yeah. People will be harassed for this info, and now it confirms some sites have been trying to figure out through bot scanning channels. So, we don't know if PII has been dumped, credit card information, banking information, because they all get paid via Twitch, via, either credit card or PayPal or what have you. So, we'll figure out what part 2 is all about. But if you're I can't imagine a Twitch streamer is actually listening to our podcast, but if they are, you should have already had your streamer key regenerated either by Twitch or by yourself. Make sure you're changing your passwords and, put 2FA on your system. Make sure you're doing that. So, but that should be, for anything that deals with high value and high dollar amount applications. It's, definitely worth your time and effort to do so. So, and I'm looking forward to part 2 to see if they have anything else. The one thing I found interesting, they said they found internal tools, like pen testing tools on in the device. So I'm like, what did they find? What is it, and where, they said internal tools, but I had heard, according to the Vice article, there was pen testing tools and stuff that they had found, like, potentially from a red team operation or something, like, or an internal pen testing team that wasn't necessarily a red team. I just wonder how deep this person had gotten into their organization to allow for that stuff. So 135 gigs. Also, they exfilled 135 gigs, which initially I was like, how do you not recognize 135 gigs being exfilled from your environment? But you're a streaming service. So, on a system, with the CDN and stuff. So, I mean, you instead of, 5 terabytes a day, you're using 5.01 terabytes per day, that kind of thing. So 135 gigs may just be another drop in the bucket compared to what, all the Twitch streamers are doing on the reg. So, that was something I had to think through. I was like, well, 135 gigs probably isn't a lot if everybody starts, Twitch streaming at the same time, or, it was exfilled over the course of a month or something like that. So
a lot of people said like similar things for the Sony Entertainment hack when allegedly it was North Korea that that compromised them and wrecked their network. People are like, how do you not notice all this data moving around? But something interesting about that is that when you're doing video editing or you're getting ready to go to production and you have to move that all over the place, that is a lot of data. Unedited, like raw video is really there's a large amount of data that you're transferring. So any kind of credentials going over the wire, copying stuff off of shares, that's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to normal production traffic. And, sometimes it's just hard to notice.
Especially if you record your video in bitmap only.
Oh.
Like me.
Yeah, and you don't have time to render all that down to a smaller, like, containerized format. So like Tony said, raw video is in specific channels does take up a lot of space. So so that's interesting. I look forward to seeing what they found in number 2. I'm hoping that the Twitch team, when they were rolling IR on Monday or Tuesday morning, then they're finding out what's going on, and they're able to lock that down a lot quicker. So, it's definitely some learning. Somebody's going to be updating some IR playbooks and stuff, I would imagine. So, all right. So we have several other news stories in here. There's shareholders. BrewDog exposed data of 200,000 shareholders for over a year. Apparently, BrewDog is some kind of beer company. According to pen test partners, BrewDog declined to inform their shareholders and asked not to be named in the research revealing the security flaw. Cybersecurity firm said the Scottish brewery implemented a hard-coded bearer authentication token associated with API endpoints designed for BrewDog's mobile applications. Tokens were returned, but rather than being triggered once a user submitted their credentials, they were hard-coded. Verification step was missed. Boy, that's not good. That's kind of one of them API no-nos. Make sure your bearer tokens are not hard-coded, because those are the same as credentials in many cases, verification, what have you. So during tests, they were able to access the API of Equity for Punk's shareholders. That's an actual name of a VC company, I would imagine, without suitable authentication challenge. So once you had the bearer token, you could do whatever you wanted with the APIs: names, date of births, email addresses, telephone numbers, previously used delivery addresses, shareholder numbers, shares held, referrals, and more were accessible. However, the customer IDs were not considered sequential. Oh, well, that's good. Wow, that's rough. So the BrewDog app introduced the issue in 2.5.5, released in March 2020, and was not resolved for 18 months. Yeah. How many times have we seen, apps or devices that have hard-coded credentials in them, or hard-coded, API tokens, or, authentication and bearer tokens for that? We hear about those, on a monthly basis or semi-regularly. I just don't understand how they think they can get away with that stuff.
The 90s called. They want their default creds back. Seriously.
You think 90s? There are companies out there that are still leaving hard-coded credentials in because it was part of a test build, or, we'll remove this before we go to production. And, they forget to run the little script that they need to, delete all of the test accounts out of the system, or forget to flip a switch and, activate the test build and actually put the dev build on the production device or something like that. It happens more than you know.
I mean, shoot, we've seen stuff in HTML comments, right?
Oh, yeah.
All you have to do is view source.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. I've solved many a CTF flag by just viewing source on a system. Yeah. Don't put this, don't put special characters in here. It doesn't like them. Good. Okay. Cross-site scripting, or, here, log in, RC, before authentication or whatever. Yeah.
Now, more to your point about the hard-coded bearer tokens, I just saw a thing. I was remembering a couple of years ago at the RSA security conference, they had an issue with their mobile app that they were using for people that attended the conference, and somebody just downloaded the app, created an account, and were able to start listing out like information for all of the other attendees. And I was just like, this really smacks of that. That reminds me of what that one time RSA fudged it up. So we're saying the 90s, but man, this was 2018. This is 2018. Everything old is new again.
That's right. That's right. Everybody, it's new to the developers that do it because, I didn't know that was a thing or whatever. Yeah. So, I think this is a good point as far as we can get to seg into the discussion with Tony about his book. All of these things we talked about today are some things that could, depending on availability, could be very easily done in a home lab. The BrewDog app, for instance, the medical device, if you found an old version of that on Fleabay or something like that, which is probably the best place to find these kinds of devices. Setting up MFA and testing that out it's non-trivial, but you could potentially set stuff up like that in the environment. Let me ask you something. What is the end goal for somebody who wants to set up a home lab in their environment? Why did you write this book in the first place? But then why did you write the update? Did you see a need that somebody said, "Hey, I wish there was a good manual," or what was the motivation for to write the book in the first place, and let alone version 2?
Well, it all starts back in 2016-ish or so. I just joined my current employer, Hurricane Labs, and they were asking me, you think you could write up some guidance on how to set up a lab environment on a hosted hypervisor? We're mostly a Mac shop, so I was assuming VMware Fusion. I started writing, and I was like, well, what about, there's a couple of us that use VMware Workstation either on Windows or Linux. What about them? What about ESXi? What about VirtualBox? And I said, you know what? I'll tackle all of them. I'll do it. I'll tackle all the most common hypervisors. So I started writing about, I kind of sketch up like what was the basic lab environment, or what like the baseline would be for this environment. And then I said, here's all the hypervisors I want to cover. I want to cover VMware Workstation and VMware Fusion, VirtualBox, VMware ESXi. And then I found out that client Hyper-V was a thing, because Lord knows Microsoft doesn't ever advertise it as being a feature on their desktop operating systems. But I decided to cover that too. So the kind of play on the other question as to, whether or not, did I see this as being a need? I mean, it was a need at my workplace, and then it kind of just became something more. It was originally going to be a blog post or a wiki article, and then I started writing more and more content about it, and realized, after my coworkers were joking with me, is like, when are you going to publish this thing? And I just, it's like, all right, I'll turn it into a book. And then, we all work in cybersecurity. We all work in IT here, and we've seen plenty of other blog posts out there all over the internet on how to establish a home lab and how to get something set up like that, But I just figured, since I was already writing this up, I wanted to try and commit something to paper, try and commit it to a PDF, try to have it all be in one place to make it easy for those who are getting started, or those who are, trying to get their bearings and need to set up a lab environment and maybe don't have the IT or operations experience to set up virtual machines or set up a hypervisor, a place to get started. And, if they weren't comfortable enough to even work on the book, I said, well, if you're not comfortable with this list of concepts, here's other books or other external resources that you could read, and it could help you get in there, or you can dive in feet first. And when you get confused, you can, look up those other resources as you need them. So the overall goal was just to consolidate all of that knowledge you see out there, out in those disparate blogs, or, that you might have, like, these little tricks that you might have picked up over the course of your career, and just commit them to paper, because I know my memory is basically paper mache at this point, and it's not getting any better as I get older. So what better thing to do than to put it to paper or to PDF?
Very cool. Okay. So just as an aside, you can find those Medtronic 503 remote controls on eBay and elsewhere. It looks like about $40 for the link that I put in the show notes. So if you want to do your favorite replay attack, you can potentially go through and find some things online for that. So okay, so you're coming out with the second edition. So obviously there's been major changes to the book. You've added some new technologies potentially. I mean, what are some of the bigger issues that you've noticed from the first book and felt like that there was a need for a second edition?
Well, the first reason I knew that I needed a second edition was there were many students who were asking for it. When I first wrote this thing and published it back in 2017, it was 600 odd pages, and most of everything I was covering was on Ubuntu 16.04, older versions of pfSense, Snort 2, and Suricata. And obviously within, things change at the drop of a hat in our field. And over the last couple of years, two major long-term service releases for Ubuntu have come out, obviously. Snort 3 was finally released out of open beta. It had been in alpha and beta for over a decade. So they finally released that. There were new features added to Suricata. A bunch of the processes from the first book have changed. A number of people who, when they purchased the first book, they noticed issues with it, and I always take criticism seriously. If it's a criticism that's meant to improve the work, I always take it seriously. So when people tell me the images aren't clear enough, there's no contrast because this is a black and white image, so I don't know what's going on, or you link to another section of the book, but you assume that everybody is using the PDF. You don't list out page numbers. Right. The workflow or the process for configuring this option isn't exactly clear. I paid attention to all those criticisms. I offer, another thing that I had to do with my students, and I never held it against them. I was always happy to help everywhere I could, is whenever they ran into issues with the hypervisor or one of the tests not working, every time like a stranger would get my email from one of my automation scripts, or they would get a hold of my social media information and they would reach out saying, hey, I'm having problems with this section of the book, I would gladly shoot the breeze with anybody for hours or sometimes even days, saying, have you checked this? Have you checked these configuration settings? We'd go through the gamut together. And I was just, the second time around, I was like, I should really include these troubleshooting steps in the book to where they don't have to do this, But, so obviously covering all of these new technologies and having this better troubleshooting and trying to make it to where people can start from nothing a little bit better if they don't have that background, that has an effect on the page count too. So the virtual edition of the book has different page margins, and I ended out at somewhere close to, I think, 1,100 pages all said and done. I got the page count right here. It's 1,085. And then the print versions Amazon has a very strict page limit for their books. You can't have more than 590 pages in the book due to the physics of bookbinding. You won't be able to glue that many pages together. And if you can, you lose like half the page because it's, the way you split the book open, you're losing a good portion of that page. So I had to split that into 2 volumes as well. And,
wow.
I didn't want to make people pay for all of that. So that's why I made the digital edition pay what you want. You can set it to be free, or you can pay I think I asked for $30, but I don't care if you pay less for it. So I made a digital edition of it available for people who didn't want to pay for it or couldn't pay for it if they were college students or they wanted to try it before they buy it. I made a black and white version and print available to kind of give it, here's your option between digital and here's your option between full color print. And then full color print was for the people who I'm willing to pay more for this. I want it in color. So, I didn't really have any intentions of making a 2-volume book out of this, but things have changed. The technologies have changed, and I definitely got better at editing books together and, giving better troubleshooting instruction. And unfortunately, all those things just exploded the page count.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I mean, I can definitely understand the need for thoroughness. If somebody was, the worst thing you could do is have a book that people can't follow and follow through, or if there's updates or whatever, that makes complete sense. So
yeah, like my dream with this book is for it to be something like those systems internals books that are from Microsoft, or those big you remember the huge introduction to Unix guides that will show you they have the really funny illustrations on the front and show you all the commands. I want my book to be something like that. I was I don't remember how to do this network segmentation for this hypervisor. Let me just pop open the book and go to that chapter. Nice. I want to have a good solid basic pfSense firewall configuration. Oh, the hypervisor book had something I could start with. Let me go to the firewall chapter and pull the rule list there. And, I just want it to be a really solid reference for people to go back to when they need it.
And that was our show for this week. You can check out Tony's Twitter account at DA_667. Mr. Betcher, you can find him at BetcherPwned, BoettCherPwned. Ms. Berlin, you can find her at InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR. You can also find the podcast at Breaksec, BRAKESEC, and you can follow me on Twitter at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. Join us next week. We will be back for more discussion with Tony. Continue talking about his book and where you can find it, and some other topics of interest, including, how to sell the fact that you have a lab to your prospective employers, or to highlight your new talents that you've learned in upskilling, or if you're trying to change your skill set to allow for new opportunities. So hope everyone has a good week. Be kind to one another. Stay safe, mask up, get vaxxed, and take care of yourself, because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.